Hello, everyone, and welcome back to It's Okay Not to Be Fabulous Every Day. I'm Cyrus Webb, joined by my co host, Dalsimer. We welcome you guys tuning in on the simulcast on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and on X. I want to welcome you guys tuning in on Instagram. You guys came up early today. And last but certainly not least, going to connect with our friends over on Amazon Live. It is episode number 7 for season 2 of It's Okay Not to Be Fabulous Every Day. And so glad you all could be with us. Have a great one for you guys today. And we're now live on the Amazon Live platform with It's Okay Not to Be Fabulous Every Day. If you guys are new to us on Amazon, welcome. Make sure you guys do hit that follow button, either here in this corner or down below. You also will see the book that this show is based on. It's written by my co-host, Amazon bestselling author, speaker, and media personality, Dalsimer. You all can see the book there. You can get it in print, get the Kindle edition as well. You can get the audio book, and of course, you'll see it's even there in Spanish as well. We have a great message as we're celebrating episode number 7 of season 2. So hope you guys will stay tuned. But Allie, how you doing?
I'm doing wonderfully, Cyrus. Thank you so much. How are you?
I'm doing really good. So, Allie, before we get into today's show, I want to say once again, congratulations are in order. The first episode of your new podcast with your son, Kyle Dalsimer, premieres this week. And that show is called So What's Your Process? How do you feel to have the first episode coming out this week?
Oh, so excited. It came out really, really well. And I would encourage everybody to check it out. It's on YouTube. So What's Your Process? And stick around because Monday there's another very exciting episode dropping.
All right. Well, we definitely look forward to that. And we're going to let our audience know how to stay connected with you, Allie, and also how to sign up for your newsletter as well. So, Allie, you and I were talking before we went live here. I tell people I have great pre-shows before the actual show of all my shows, and it's great to be able to have those. This message, I think, is a great connection to the message we had last week, where it had the quote from Dr. King, and we were talking about, of course, hate, but also fear. This week is really about being able to not have regrets. And so I want to talk broadly for a moment because, as we talk about in other episodes, Ellie, how this book even came about, how does it feel for you to think about how none of this would even be possible? You and I may not even have known each other if it had not been for you making the decision to write this book.
Yeah, that's interesting. I haven't thought about that. That's Yeah, well, I think that goes right into, the last chapter is definitely about hate and fear, but it's also about taking action for what's important. And then, the book is a series of stepping stones, and the next step to deciding to take that action is to actually take that action. And it's, better to give a shot than not to have tried, because you never know what might happen. You might decide to write a book and end up meeting an amazing person. So that would be a lived life lesson.
Well, I feel like I am definitely better because of, I was having a Wicked reference in my mind with Wicked for Good getting ready to come out. Ellie, about being changed for good. I think, I'm
Hmm.
so glad that, our mutual friend who you've known, I think, longer than I have,
Yeah.
Robert Blake Whitehill, how when he introduced us, I had no idea. Initially we just had an interview together on my
Yeah.
radio show. And then, we ended up then working together. And now, of course, having now season 2 of this show, it really just show, how things can really happen for sure. So what about that on the other side? Because just like you and I wouldn't have known each other, Allie, what has it been like for you now to have met people who have read your book and gotten to know you because of it?
Yeah, I want to take a step back because
Yeah,
what you
sure.
said is so important right there.
Mhm.
So Robert Blake Whitehill introduced us, but it was so happenstance. I went to high school with Robert, but he was a year ahead of me. And we
Okay.
knew each other, and we weren't really, friends because he was a year ahead of me.
Hmm.
And you know how those relationships go. And
Right.
you're friendly, but you don't really hang out.
Hmm.
And so, because of the pandemic, we had a high school reunion, but we had a multi-year reunion because during the pandemic, we weren't able to have our single year reunion. So, we had a 5-year class reunion, and it ended up raining. And so, we were in this outdoor tent, under this outdoor tent. And I can't remember. I think I went over and just sat with him and said hi. And he started talking to me about, his most recent project. It was really fascinating. I said, I've been thinking about writing a book. And he's like, you should do it. I was like, yeah, I don't know, maybe blah, blah, blah. And he was very supportive of me during my congressional campaign, which we do talk about briefly in this chapter. But anyway, fast forward, that conversation was really impactful, and I said, I don't really know how to go about writing. And he was like, just write, just sit down and write, right? It's like, yeah, it's not complicated. It's not complicated. It's a matter of determination and effort and taking the time. And so, not only did he introduce us, which has been a wonderful relationship and built a really nice friendship between us, but he is actually the reason that I was even in that position in the first place. So I think the lesson learned there is be open to whatever the universe presents, right? The universe presented a situation and I stepped into it. And it's been a wonderful return on that investment of that step.
Now, see, I had no idea you were going to go there, but that is a direct connection to this week's message. because again, when things happen, it then becomes a choice, right? For all of us. And that's why I think this message is going to speak so much to people, Allie, because when presented with a choice or an opportunity, we all have the option of either choosing to move forward or to not, and then having to deal with the consequences either way, right?
Yeah.
So before we go too much into that, why don't we have you go ahead and take us into this week's chapter?
Sure, absolutely. And I do have a whole nother chapter on that particular topic too, so. All right. Better to be a has-been than a never was. Cecil Parkinson. I ran for Congress. I didn't win, but I ran. Better yet, my campaign influenced the incumbent to change his position on several important policies. If I hadn't run, he wouldn't have changed his positions, and I probably would have spent the rest of my days wondering, what if? What if? What if? How sad is that? Instead, in February of 2021, I threw my hat in the ring and declared my candidacy for Congress. Of course, this makes it sound like I made the decision in one fell swoop, which couldn't be further from the truth. In fact, it took several months of soul searching and talking with friends and family before I pulled the trigger on that particular starting pistol. So what made me run? It's a question interviewers, supporters, and detractors asked a lot during the campaign. The first spark came one evening when my son and I were watching Knock Down the House on Netflix. And for those not familiar, the show documents the runs for Congress by 4 women who were all political newbies. At one point, my son turned to me and said, "You should run for Congress." I laughed, but he was serious. Although I at first dismissed the idea, it niggled at the back of my mind. And for the next few months, influenced by current events, news, tragedies, I vacillated between, yes, I'm going to run, and there is no way I will ever run. When the incumbent held up COVID relief funds for political purposes, the camel's back broke. Running for office was an eye-opening experience with a huge learning curve, which is probably why so few candidates are successful on their initial attempt. Certainly I wasn't. Nevertheless, I'm proud of what my team and I accomplished, honored that so many asked me to run again, and gratified that my efforts have emboldened others. Not until the campaign was over did I realize that my running served as an inspiration, not just to my followers, but also to my opponent. Interestingly and unexpectedly, the campaign also elucidated the true nature of several friendships, an unexpected gift. What matters more than the outcome, though, is that I took the plunge. I stepped into an unknown abyss and embraced an unknown future, uncertain future. Pursuing our ambitions, no matter what those are, is magical and precious and needs nurturing and encouragement. So if you have a dream, go for it.
Love that. So I want to begin, Ellie, with something that I think is so important. It's the first 2 sentences of this particular chapter. I ran for Congress is the first one. The second, I didn't win, but I ran. I want to talk about that for our audience because I think for so many people, they focus so much on the end result, which they really have no control over most of the time, right? What was it like for you to start the chapter that way? I ran for Congress. I didn't win, but I ran. And at least to recognize, even in those two sentences, the importance of action.
So, one of the things you learn when you're writing, especially policy memos and whatnot, which I spent decades doing,
Mhm.
it's called bluff, bottom line up front. You put your key point in the very first line because very busy people don't always read beyond that.
Mhm.
And so, that to me was the key point. That was the bottom line. I ran. I didn't win, but I ran. I made the effort. I took the plunge. I,
Yeah.
I chose to act. And if people don't read anything else in that chapter, if they read that entry, then they can, take that for themselves and interpret it through their own lens and apply it to their own lives, right?
Mhm.
Whatever their goal is, whatever their end point is that they want to achieve, they can say, okay, I'm going to do it. Regardless of the outcome, I'm going to do it. That's what I'm trying to convey with this chapter.
Yeah. Now, to me, as someone who has lived a life where everything has not been perfect or gone the way I would have liked or planned, and other people may can relate to that, I automatically give you
Cyrus,
the
I'm sorry.
yeah,
Who has had a perfect life where
yeah,
everything went the way they planned?
right.
I'd like
Yeah,
to meet this person.
yeah, I was being a little facetious there, but the reason why I phrase it that way is because when I read those two lines, I was so excited. I'm like, forget about the winning. She chose to do it. I mean, so many of us don't choose to do whatever it is.
Yeah.
So we don't know what the outcome could be because we never made the decision. What was that like for you to think about for the reader? That they would read that and say, you know what? Yeah, man, that's we can tell just from what we see on television or reading a newspaper. That's not easy, but yet she tried. What do you hope they take away from that, the attempt?
That anyone can do it. That everyone can do it.
Yeah.
There's no secret sauce. There's no magical ingredient. It's just a matter of deciding to step forward. It's a matter of choosing to take that first step on your 1,000-mile journey, right?
Yeah. Mhm.
It's a matter of saying, I believe in myself and I will do this. And frankly, I didn't believe in myself. So even if you don't believe in yourself, you can still do it. Fake it till you make it.
Yeah.
And just go for it and see where it leads you. Lean into your discomfort because that is the only way that you will discover anything meaningful about yourself, about the people around you, about your capabilities. And it's also the only way you can discover what is truly meaningful in life on a
Mhm.
personal and global scale.
Such a great point. I want to reset real quick, Ellie, and say for those who are just tuning in, I see you guys over there on YouTube and also those tuning in on Facebook, welcome. You're watching It's Okay Not to Be Fabulous Every Day. I'm Cyrus Webb, joined by my co-host, Ellie Dalsimer, who's the Amazon best-selling author of the book by the same name. Ellie and I are talking about the message. This is episode number 7 in this series, and it's based on the quote by Cecil Parkinson, better to be a has-been than a never was. I want to talk about the ripple effect that you mentioned in this particular chapter, because again, this is something else we don't think about, Allie, is about, again, because so many people are just focused on the win. They're not thinking about the impact of the decision and the journey. You write in here, I'm proud of what my team and I accomplished, honored that so many asked me to run again. And this part got me, and gratified that my efforts have emboldened others. Could you have imagined that regardless of the outcome, that you would be someone that people would look at and say, wow, I wish I had that type of courage. I wish I had that type of conviction, or at least that type of ability to say yes to something like that. Could you have imagined that you would have that type of impact, Ellie?
No, and it was really, it really helped make me feel like the journey was worthwhile because, as you know, as we've discussed, running for Congress was a difficult and frankly traumatic experience,
Mhm.
and um, I had I had a number of people contact me, ask me for advice, say they were thinking about running. What should they do? How do they go about it? Because there's a lot to it, so much more than you can even imagine.
Mhm.
And everything from setting up an Act Blue account to hiring your teams to setting up your, what software you use to track your get out the vote, and it's a lot. And to have so many primarily young people who had followed my campaign, who liked the platform, my platform, and when I declined running again, to have them come and say, well, I think I'm going to run. I'm going to run in my district in Illinois, or I'm going to run in my district in Minnesota. That was incredible. That was incredible. And um, there's just no downside to exploring that kind of bold action.
So, again, talking to the Allie of today, when the Allie of today reads this chapter, how does it make you feel? Because I think, again, I've talked about a couple times already, Allie, about not focusing on the win or loss, but focusing on the decision to do. How does this make you feel about yourself and what you did?
I'm proud of what I did. I'm proud of what the team did. I did not do this in a vacuum.
Mhm.
There was a team of people who were dedicated and who really made a difference. There were also people who were, we'll call them detractors.
Mhm.
And that was an interesting perspective. It was, if nothing, because, I have a degree in psychology, right? So for me, being able to take a step back and look back on this and really get a slice and a glimpse of the psychology of what is going on with different people and what motivates them and drives them was super fascinating on a personal level. Um, I would not have gained the confidence that I gained personally if I had not done. It's interesting. I I had an interview with Tanya White, who's a
Mhm.
mutual friend. Gosh, that
Yeah.
must have been like, I don't know, ages ago, a year ago, maybe. I don't know. I haven't thought about it in a while. But she was asking me about the run. And she asked me, what did I learn? What was the big thing that I learned? And in the moment, I realized and I said, I learned that I am a badass who can do anything I want.
Mhm.
And it was a little bit of an epiphany for me in that moment, but it's true. I learned that I can do anything because if people take on hard tasks, if they do the hard thing and they survive and come through, they will learn, just like I did, that they have much more power and capability and competency than they originally thought, because we just so often we undervalue and underestimate ourselves. And so looking back on it, I'm super proud of the people who were around me for believing in me, and really appreciative of everything that we worked together for, because we did accomplish a lot. And on a personal level, I am so happy to have taken a huge step toward realizing that I am a worthy person and my dreams are worthwhile.
Mhm. I want to go to a point in this. I had not, I was not familiar with the film "Knock Down the House," um, Ellie. So I had to look it up. I have not watched it, but what I thought was interesting when I looked it up, and you referenced here about the show documents a run of for Congress of 4 women, but only one of them won.
Correct.
But 3 of them are featured in this documentary about what they did and the impact they made. I think that is a great summation of what this chapter really is talking about. It's not about saying that you're going to quote unquote win every battle, but the very fact that you're willing to try. the impact that you can make. And I thought about that, that here you have these 4 individuals. They're all 4 featured on the poster and everything, but only one of them won. Yet we know the other 3 now because they made the decision. And I hope our audience thinks about that. That you really can't. Brene Brown, has that. With her book Daring Greatly, talks about that so much. About the importance of showing up, getting in the arena.
Mhm.
And I think until you make that decision to show up, you never know what is not possible for you. And that's
That's
my
right.
way.
That's right. And all of those women, you know, put their everything into it. And yes, only one was successful, but in a lot of ways, that was an outlier because, and probably unexpected for the Netflix folks, because it usually takes three runs for a newcomer to win. 3 runs before they can build enough name recognition and build a base big enough to win against the heavily stacked deck that is against newcomers. And all of those women have continued on to do amazing things.
Mm-hmm.
And I would encourage everybody to watch it and learn from it, as I did, that they were just people. They're just ordinary people doing everyday things, just like me, just like most people,
Mm-hmm.
because everyone has the capacity to do great things. Everyone.
Such a great thing. So, Allie, with that in mind, with that thought in mind, what do you hope people, keeping in mind the quote of this chapter, but what do you hope they realize about the importance of not living life with regrets?
The worst thing that can happen is to never try and spend your life full of what if only, you know, it might have been, could have been, should have been, and never have it change. And I've said this many times. The worst outcome is not failing, finding yourself exactly where you were 10 years before and still unhappy. That's the worst thing that can happen.
Yeah. Such a great reminder. Again, everyone, It's Okay Not to Be Fabulous Every Day is the book. If you have not gotten your copy, now is the time to do so. You can get it all over Amazon in its different forms, and you can get it in print, the Kindle edition, even get the audiobook there as well. So make sure you all do take advantage of that. Allie, another great show. Let our audience know, how can they stay connected with you?
Yeah, sign up for my newsletter, allydalsimer.com/newsletter. I'm actually switching days up, so it's going to come out on Sunday. October is Mental Health Awareness Month, so
Mhm.
I'm going to be sharing some self-assessments because a lot of folks I've offered a lot of tools and tips and resources for how to handle mental health. And a lot of folks are like, well, I don't really know where to start. Like, where do I start? And so this month I'm offering a self-assessment to help you figure out where to start. So sign up for the newsletter. It's free. I don't sell the information or share your names. And follow me on Instagram, and please follow So What's Your Process on Instagram, and check out our video on YouTube. We've just kicked off the first season. We're very excited. Your very own Cyrus Webb is going to be featured on Monday, and it's a really good episode, and I think everyone will enjoy it.
Well, thank you. Thank you again for the two of you having me. Really appreciate it. And Ellie, thank you again for another great show as always. And we thank you, our audience, for tuning in to another great segment of It's Okay Not to Be Fabulous Every Day. Until next week, you all make it a great one. We'll talk to you soon. Take care.